Welcome, everybody, with this week's episode of our video game book club, as we are going to dive into Zone of the Enders Part 1, which is a game. So it's Zone of the Enders Part 1 playthrough.
Do they call it part one?
And this is
called Zone of the Enders, isn't it?
It's just Zone of the Enders,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so then this is our
If you
Zone
want to
of
see
the
it how we're doing it,
the,
Zone of the Enders, the second runner,
the
part,
second runner.
0.5.
Part zero.
Part zero, yes, part zero. That's a good one. Part zero. We'll do part zero.
Because we're going to talk about not the game we are playing for Video Game Book Club, but the homework that we needed to do in order to get into it. So with
Correct.
that, Christian, I will let you take it away.
Yes. So we all watched an anime movie, and that's what this
We
basically
watched a
is.
Let's Play.
It's
We
a Let's
did,
Play.
yeah.
Just so
But I
people
mean,
are confused,
the game is
it's not
basically
an actual
an anime movie.
Yes,
Like the game is basically an anime movie.
Yeah.
but you cannot find it on Netflix. It was a YouTube Let's Play.
Go to YouTube,
Yes,
watch
yeah.
someone
Which
play
I
it.
think we linked to it.
Yes,
but
I'll link to it, yes.
yeah. So man, there's obviously this game is only. I mean, the video had some extra stuff that happens, but it's really about 2 hours long. If you do like a speed run where you know everything's going, I think like how long it had to be has it as like an hour and 20 minutes. Like you can just go through it. So obviously there won't be too much to talk about story wise. So we're gonna talk about the history of this game a little bit. So
Oh, their story.
there is. We're gonna
There
get
is.
to that, but I'm saying before we blow through, I think it's important to know about
Sure, yes.
how this
What
came
this
about,
game is. Yeah.
how this came about, and why there was a sequel that ended up getting greenlit for a 1.5 hour game. So, everybody is familiar with our friend, the glorious Kojumbo.
Yes.
He,
Hideo Kojima.
made the
God
Metal Gear Solid
himself.
game. So, after Metal Gear Solid came out, everybody was very understandably very, very interested in whatever the next one of those was going to be. Well, he was making it, but he also wanted to, do something else. He was hoping that he wasn't going to get. This was back in Kojima's early career, where he was hoping to not
It was
be completely
2001 is because I wanted to
Yeah.
look and see what year this
shit.
game came out.
He did not want to get completely chained to the Metal Gear Solid series. Hilarious looking back, because that's exactly what happened. Outside of this game and then the game that we're about to talk about. So, back then, in 2000, 2001, there was plenty of times where if you had an anticipated game, and then you had a game that you weren't super sure about, but you definitely wanted it to sell because you want to make money, you would just toss in a little demo of a game attached to that game,
Yes.
and miraculously, that game would sell millions of copies, and nobody knew how it happened. A famous one is obviously with the Halo 2 demo being attached to whatever that game was. It was the cop one, the future cop one.
Crackdown?
Force.
Crackdown, thank you. Yes,
Crackdown.
Crackdown.
Yeah.
The Halo 2 demo got attached to Crackdown, and Crackdown sold a bazillion copies
And
and
no
never
one
sold
played
that
it.
many ever again.
Yeah, nobody ever
Yeah.
played it.
So the opposite here happened. So Metal Gear Solid 2 demo was attached to Zone of the Enders, so everybody ran out and bought it. Now, back in 2000, obviously, we all remember when we got games back then, it wasn't just as simple as saying, oh, okay, I'm done with this game now, I'll go get another one. Because money was a thing. None of us grew up super rich. And so we obviously were like, oh, okay, this is just the game I have now until I get to, until either I can scrounge up enough money to go get one, or until my parents, decide that I have been a good enough boy to
Right,
get
yeah.
to get a game.
I deserved it. So.
How
How many lawns do I have to cut to get another game, Mom?
And so,
Yeah.
you said that this was the game, and the Metal Gear Solid demo was attached to it.
Yes, correct.
Wow. Okay.
Now-
I thought that was. I misunderstood when you first announced this. Like when we were talking about it, I misunderstood. I thought this was a small demo attached to that game.
No. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 2 demo is attached to this game. Now,
Okay.
it also should be note that Metal Gear Solid 2 obviously industry famous now for the biggest bait and switch that has ever been happened in gaming history, where everybody, because of this demo and everything else, thought that Solid Snake was going to be the main character of Metal Gear Solid 2. Turns out that's not the case. It's Raiden, and it was this whole thing, and they were actually able to keep that under wraps the entire time, even by sending out fake review copies to reviewers, so nobody knew until the game actually went in.
Fantastic.
It couldn't happen today.
I know,
but I agree.
I know
Fantastic.
that game. I know that game, but I don't recall, like, was that a problem when it first came out? Were people pissed? Because the game itself, I was saying, people really liked, right?
Yeah, people no. So well, here's the thing. It was reviewers were pissed, I think, because, and like outlets in general, because
they felt betrayed.
Not only that, but now it was like, well, now we got to go out and fucking buy another copy of this game and fucking re-review it or whatever, because god damn it, like, we got to know. For players, I think it was interesting because I think you had a moment where they were like, what the fuck? Like, I want my Solid Snake. That's who that's my character. That's who I play it, blah, blah, blah. And then as the game goes on, they're like, I mean, the game's really good, but who the fuck is this Raiden kid? Blah, 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 right? Like, I think it goes both ways. I think, obviously, with time now, it's seen as the most brilliant chess move that's ever been pulled off in gaming, because 3 ends up being a prequel, and then 4 is a sequel to 2 in a lot of ways. It's just a time skip, and then things happen there. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a Metal Gear Solid series one day on the book club.
Take an entire year to play through them.
Hey, you know what? Who knows? Anyway. But yeah, so that's how this game came to be. So everybody, that demo gets attached to this game, so everybody runs out, buys copies of Zone of the Enders, and then as they start to play through it, a niche sort of cult following comes from this game because, there's some cool stuff here. So, really, though, as far as the story is concerned, it is pretty shallow. So, game opens with our protagonist, Leo, and all of his friends are shouting at him, and they're asking for help, and he's sort of frozen, paralyzed in fear. A robot is destroyed and falls on his friends and smashes them. And
they called him out because it wasn't like... Am I jumping too far ahead to where I was saying, like, they're asking who the Ender is? And they're like, oh, he's the Ender. He's the one. And it's like, fuck you guys. You're supposed to be my friends.
I think it was for a game. Like, yeah, like, it was like them playing. But then no one calls him out. But, yeah, so they're all... But it's like they're arguing, like, his friends were being shitty to him, his friends. But, like, they're being shitty to him, picking on him. And then when they realize that they're about to get crushed, they're like, help us, Leo, help, don't be a dickhead and stand there and watch us. And he's like, I'm freaking out. And then he runs away after they get smashed. And he runs through a factory and sort of backwards falls into the cockpit of Jehuti. And he is greeted by the other protagonist of this game, Ada, who is the AI that controls this mech robot. And that's
what this game is, right? Would you classify this a mech game, or would you classify it as something else? Okay.
Yeah, it's a mecha action game. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for people that like on kind of skates and thrusting right and left, and
so that's actually what I was.
Go ahead. Good.
So that's the part that I was going to get to. Is immediately I think you are you have no idea what's happening at first, and then as soon as you get a shot of Jehuti, I think you're like, oh, okay, I see, that's where the money went. Like, it's here. This is a robot game. Like, I'm playing a Gundam game, it's just they're not calling it Gundam, but every part of Jehuti is, like, so meticulously designed in a game world that is otherwise pretty plain.
Yeah. Very anime plain, for that era.
Yeah, very anime plain, but then, like, to Alex, to your point, like, if Jehuti lands on the ground... It's because of the way that the feet are designed, like the skates sort of flip down and you are grinding along the ground, like, and you hear it, and it's this really sort of like futuristic, like sort of like metal-y, like shing sound like as you're going across, and that's really cool looking. Jehuti has this energy pulse that's also your health meter, but you'll see like these, if you're at full health, like a blue line will always just be pulsing through different parts of the armor. That can turn to yellow and red depending on like the status of the armor and stuff like that. And Jehuti just looks cool, like the blue or like copper sort of like look and everything just fits
Very
perfectly.
thin, very quick.
Yeah, super fast, like dashing around. You're like shooting around everywhere. You have a sick fucking energy sword, and it has never been repeated, and I still think it's a shame. But your other like your ranged weapons are energy weapons, but if you charge it up enough, you charge like a giant spirit bomb looking thing from fucking
Volleying
Dragon
it.
Ball, and then just slap it forward at an enemy, and it like homes it. And I was like, dude, what a cool animation! Like just like badass, especially if you're a kid in 2000 and you're playing this, and if you had any sort of like familiarity with Gundam whatsoever, you were probably just like, this is the coolest fucking thing ever. But yeah, so Ada immediately is like, gets into with Leo and is just like, hey, so you're not supposed to be in here, number one, but the person who was scheduled to pilot this aircraft is dead. Nothing we can do about that. So we need to go and get out of here to preserve. Like I know that my mission is to get this thing to Mars, so we got to go. And so you go through a brief combat tutorial. You get out there, and there is some arguments between. As soon as you go out, you see the robot that crushed your friends. And he's like, Leo's like, oh, it's sad. Ada's like, there's no life signs detected here, so I don't know what we're being sad about, but. And then he's like, oh, my friends. And like you get like the echo of them being like,
Oh, yeah.
Leo, help us, you
The
piece
voices.
of shit. Blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, like anime screams, and you're like, okay. And then Ada's like, so anyway, we need to fly. It's like to be able to move, so let's go ahead and move on. So you are introduced to the password system here, at which point you're like, oh, okay, to unlock different fucking things for Jehuti, I have to kill enemies, take any of the stuff that they've hacked away, and then use that in the local server to be able to pull that information back to Jehuti and unlock those things, because Jehuti went under like a giant upgrade right before this attack happened. And you're met with, again, I think a really cool animation that I think like is like super futuristic, but the idea of transferring data just by putting your hand out and watching the data like transfer back and forth is very cool. And so as the game goes on, you go into this next area and you meet Leo's only friend that he's ever had in this entire world, Selvice, who's the only other human. And she, when you see her, this is a famous line that everybody makes fun of that I think probably is indicative of the time.
Translation
and
at the time as well.
translation at the time is what I was.
There were a few lines
Leo!
in this demo that
Is
stuck
it
out to me.
Leo? Like, you do not have to say names
and he's
twice
like-
in every sentence.
And he's like, Selvice, that's you, isn't it, Selvice? Selvice, is that you? And you're like,
okay, you got it.
yeah, that's
That's what we're here for.
2001, baby.
Yeah, that's what I gotta get ready for.
2001, baby. Yeah. So Selvice says that she's going to check on the orphans at the church, and you're like, you should just not do that. You should just come with me and let's get the fuck out of here. And she's like, yeah, no, but I'm not going to do that. And then as he's trying to convince her, a shot goes over his head, and you go and deal with our first boss encounter, which is the weird squid-looking guy, and you fight through him.
This was my favorite dialogue in this game until the end, where he was just like, get out of here, kid. And you're like,
I'm not a kid.
I'm not a kid. Clearly a kid.
That's
and
yeah,
the
makes
answer
me-
is, you just proved my point, kid. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, what does that even mean?
Yeah. And so you fight him, kill him, and you're given a choice where Ada goes like, okay, hey, stomp on his pod, like stomp on the pilot
I like
part.
this.
Finish
Yeah.
him.
And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And Ada's like, what do you mean
That's
no?
illogical.
And he's like, I'm not going to kill somebody he can't fight anymore. And then Ada goes, I can give you 18 reasons why you should kill this person right now. And he's like, I don't care, I'm not doing it. And then he jettisons off like as the escape pod. And Ada even still gives a crack, goes, you have there's still 2 seconds where we can kill him.
Yeah.
Like,
That part kind of did bug me because he was like, I'm not going to kill something that has no intent on continuing the fight, which is not true. Like, this guy just tried to kill you. And he's a soldier. Like, she even says he's going to get another one of these machines.
starts
He's going to
like
go back
another
from
orbital
orbit.
frame, yeah.
Right? And he's like, if he's not going to intend to fight, he can't do it. And it's like,
But he does.
But-
he will.
And that's why I told Christian, I was like, there's a reason why prisoners of war exist, right? Because, like, at a time, you want to reduce the number of forces that are going to continue to come at you. So the same thing here, like, if you let him live, he's going to go get another machine. He's going to join the fight again. Like, the whole dialogue just bugged me.
It's a child, Alex. You're dealing with a child's ideal.
That's what I was gonna say, is
I
that-
can't kill anyone. I'm Spider-Man.
Now-
I can't kill anyone.
Here's the thing. Everybody has to remember that this is the same Alex that we're talking about that
sure.
tries to force adult logic on children all the time in every story where he's like, you're an idiot 11-year-old. You're making decisions an 11-year-old would
Yes.
do. This is stupid, even though like it's clear that that's what an 11-year-old would do. But
don't
yes,
know.
No. Yeah, oh
said
yeah,
I don't know.
I forgot you were a mass murderer at 11, so that makes more sense. But yeah, so there is. It's just funny that Ada's just like, you piece of shit, like
Yeah.
listen, and he's like, no, anyways, and so then they pick up Selvis, and Selvis is basically like, so my bad, I definitely should have listened to you. There was nobody here, so my fault on that. But sweet, let's leave. And so they go, and then now we're met with what is like, you'll see like basically the stage menu, which is you are on what is essentially a halo ring outside of Jupiter, and is a space colony, and every single place that you can do a mission at is sort of shown by this like giant sort of open map area, and Jehuti will fly to those, and then you press like, yes, I want to go here, and then you will be in the stage. Really quick, also, what a great name for mechs, by the way. Orbital Frames, very cool, I think. It's a very good name. But yeah, so then you end up, when you are, I think it's, so after this one, Jehuti is basically like, look, no, you're contacted by Elena. And Elena is part of the Atlantis Foundation, who was trying to get Jehuti to Mars to begin with, to handle a very important military-based mission. And Elena tells you that she is trying... She needs you to do this for them. Like, she needs you to get, basically, hey, we got somebody that can meet you. You got to make it a little bit farther. But then once you get there... like, we can take it off your hands. And Leo is basically arguing with her the whole time, being like, I don't want to. Like, I don't want to do this. And she's like, I hear you, but, like, please? And Leo's like, I'm fine. I'll do it. Like, it's okay. And it's like, okay, well, you put up a hell of a fight there, bud. And so they agree.
It was a little bit of a fight because, like, he's, like, saying, no, I don't want to. I'm just a kid. And she's finally like, you're the only one in that thing, and if they get a hold of it, then everyone dies. Like, everything is
they're like,
fucked.
they're going to... Yeah,
he's
you're
like,
going to destroy
oh.
the whole colony.
She
Yeah, he's
essentially,
like,
she
okay.
essentially said, I need your help, which will tie into the end of the game. But, like,
Yes.
he's saying, I need your help. He's like, oh, well, okay. And then he's down for it. So there was a little bit.
So then they keep going, or Jehuti's next part of the plan is, well, to get through, the enemy has basically armed 2 giant microwaves against to create like this barrier, and he was like, Leo brings up, he's like, well, can't we just fly through it? She's like, I mean, I can fly through it, but you guys will be cooked alive, so not gonna work for you. and so you have to destroy these. So you go through, destroy the antennas. There's a bunch of different things that happen in this moment where you have to go. You find a bunch of different power-ups that let you end up seeing through a wall, so that you can find the secret area where they've hidden this thing. You can buy the generator, and then you figure out how to use Jehuti's remote takeover program to be able to take over one of the fodder enemies that you fight that will then let you go and shoot the other generator down, all sorts of stuff. The other thing is there's a giant one of the main space elevator shafts that's connected to everything for the colony or whatever. That's also one of the main power generators for these relays, and so you have to go and find the sniper rifle pickup to be able to shoot those and destroy that part so that whole thing comes down. And then right after that is when... Is there another fight here? I think so.
Well, you meet...
I'm going completely off memory.
You meet the big guy, the real big guy, but then you have to fly off again because you don't have the...
Yeah, but you don't meet Thunderheart there yet.
Was it
he
the
comes
stealth
afterwards.
Thunderheart is the guy who's supposed to take over your mech.
Right, yeah, but that doesn't happen until a little bit later. So I think after this, after you get done with all the relays, it's time to fly. That's what it is. After it's time to fly forward, you keep going, and then Jehuti gets infected with a virus because a shot almost grazes you from this dude that's this weird walking tank looking thing. Mm-hmm. And he shoots at you, so then you got to go back to... And it's so funny how they foreshadow this, actually, because as you're flying to this mission, Jehuti goes, there's Factory 2 over here, and she puts it on the map, and she goes, this is where I was created, by the way. We don't need to go there right now, but if for whatever reason you need to go here, it's right here. And then you go to the next mission, a beam goes by you, you get infected with a virus, and it's Jehuti basically being like, you suck, you're an idiot, you suck. And he's like, what's happening to you? And her voice gets all fucked up. And then you're like, oh, we got to go back to the... we got to try to fix her. And so you guys go back to the factory. It's worth noting at this point that Jehuti dies in one hit if you get touched during this point. Shit. Which is why it's we should avoid combat at all costs so that I can, get it. But, yeah, so you go back to the factory where Jehuti was created. And download the extra program that allows Ada to repair herself. And then she assesses the situation and says, hey, we can't fight him yet. We have to find a decoy program that allows us to basically create an after image of ourselves so that we can fight this dude. And so you go do that. Then you go fight him. He has similar one-liners, which is basically holy shit, you're the kid that beat so-and-so, huh? Well, if you could try to kill me if you want, but it's not going to happen. And then you do it, and halfway through, as soon as you get to 50%, it's the same thing. Ooh, it's time to get serious now. And you're like, all right, this is real anime here. And so you kill him, and then afterwards, you're like, okay, cool, so we can just fucking fly and leave, right? And then that's when you get on the phone with Elena and Thunderheart, and Thunderheart basically is like, Elena, are you serious? This is the fucking child that's piloting this fucking thing right now? Are we really doing this thing? And Elena's like, hey, this is what we got, brother. I know what we can do. And Leo's like, hey, fuck you, man. And he, basically goes in and he's like, I'm not a killer like you guys, you pieces of shit. I'm just trying to get this fucking thing to you. You're lucky that I'm even helping you. Eat my dick, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, everything is just numbers to you people. That's why your friend Alan died, blah, blah, blah. And that guy's like, oh, that's enough. And he's like, by the way, that was my best friend and her boyfriend. So fuck you. And Leo's like, aw, damn. My fault, OG. You got it. And so then he's like, look, you got to make it to this dam. You can go under here, and then there will be a little rendezvous point. We can make the switch happen. I'll take it from you, and then you guys will be good to go. And of course, I should say I did skip the beginning of this game. One of the tutorials is that you fight Viola, which is another enemy frame runner in a very not as cool, but a very cool looking robot, just like Jehuti. And then these other guys have just been sort of jobbers. Some of their designs they're big. They're big as fuck.
She's more sleek, but she's definitely the female robot version of it. So yeah, it's got curves.
Yeah. But she basically like you beat her back or whatever, and she's like, "I'll see you later, boy," and then drives off, and then that's the rest of the game that as we've described happens. So either way, as you're coming up to this dam portion, you run into none other than Viola, who's laid a trap for you, and she basically says, "Hey, fuck you." Her boss is in her ear, basically being like, "Don't do this. Like you're not fully repaired yet. Just wait. I'll show up with my new orbital frame, Anubis, and we'll be good to go." And he's like, "As a matter of fact, if you wait, I'll even give you my other orbital frame because I don't even want it anymore. Anubis is that cool." And she basically says, "Go fuck yourself. Like, I'm not listening to you. I'm gonna do this as like a matter of pride." And so she fights him. She fights Leo with just her arm weapon basically, and that's it. So this happens. They're fighting, and halfway through the fight, she gets you in a trap, and and Ada is basically like, "Okay, look, we can't do anything. We're stuck. I'm gonna eject the pilot seat, and then I'm gonna detonate the core, blow up everything, and then you'll be good to go." And Leo's basically like, "What do you mean? You're just gonna die?" And she's like, That's not even a question. I am just an AI. Like, I'm not alive, blah, blah, blah. So, I'm going to save your life, blow this up, they can't get it, and then we win. And he's like, "No, I'm not doing it." And then he ends up doing a cool backflip out of the trap. And then you go to fight Viola, and you beat the shit out of her. Like, cut off her arm, and, like, end up, like, slicing, like, a part of the side. Like, face is all fucked up. And once again, she's like taunting you basically, and Leo's like, "Fine, I am gonna fucking kill you then." And he stops right before the cockpit and is like, "Never mind, I'm not gonna do it." And she's like, "I'm going to fight you again. Like, if I live through this, I'm going to kill you. So you should kill me now." And he's like, "No, I'm not gonna do it. Fuck you." So then he leaves. He meets up with Thunderheart. Him and Selvice get out of the cockpit. Thunderheart's basically like, "Look, man, I saw your fight. I'm not gonna lie to you. You're already better at this thing than I am. We're gonna need to you gotta take it the rest of the way." And Leo's like, "No, I'm not doing that." And as that happens, Selvice basically starts to argue with him and is like, "Nah, come on, man, we can do it. Like, it's you and me. I know you'll protect me. We'll be good to go. Let's do this thing." And as she says that, Viola shoots her with a laser rifle right through her stomach. And it's so funny because there's not very many cutscenes in this game, but this is one of like the fully animated ones. And so you see this moment where the whole screen turns red and black, and like Leo's eyes are all big,
Very
and you're
manga.
like, "Oh, this somebody was doing their anime moment here." Like, it was it's like Teen Gohan after 16 dies and he goes Super Saiyan. It's literally that exact scene. But yeah, so he's like, "Okay, I'll do it." And he's like, "You gotta take care of Selvice for me?" He's like, "Yeah, kid, I got it." And he's like, "Okay." Then he gets back in Jehuti. They fly after Viola, and he goes, "Oh, by the way, so they've set bombs all along this main shaft, so you guys have to figure out a way to deal with that, or else they're just going to throw the whole colony into Jupiter's orbit. Like, they don't care." So Jehuti comes up with a plan that's like, "Hey, basically, the same way that we've been grabbing some of these power-ups, we can affect, like, space, basically, and, like, send these bombs to the Shadow Realm, and they can detonate by themselves, and it'll be fine." So you start to do that, and once you've solved all of those, Viola shows back up. She's all, like, half fucked up, but she's ripping and ready to go, and so you go fight her, and this time you send her straight into Jupiter's orbit, and without missing a beat, Leo still, at this moment, is like, "Okay, but can we save her though? Like,
what's the
maybe,
odds?" Yeah.
Like, what are the odds?" And Jeti's like, or Ada's like, "I mean, it's pretty low. But we could do it, but it's pretty low." And then she's like, "Don't you dare." And then here comes, "My pride, this, that, and the other." Here, though, is a line that I remember that I always thought was so funny because it's definitely a localization issue. But she talks about how she's got nothing left, and so she doesn't want to be saved. Like, you know, her boyfriend's dead, her kids have died, everybody that she knows has died, blah, blah, blah. And her final part was, I've lost all of the things that make me a woman, or all the point of being a woman, or something
I thought,
like that.
Is she infertile? Like, is that how they're going to bring us up in this in the game? That's kind of weird, but okay.
Yeah, I think what she was probably saying there was that all of the things that gave my life purpose
that
before
matter to
or
her,
whatever, are gone, and somebody just decided, like, I'll just control alt, like,
everything that makes me a woman is gone.
Right into Google Translate, Control C right out of there, I'm good to go. And that's just what happened. Yeah, I thought it was very funny. But yeah, so you beat her. She falls into Jupiter and basically just like burns up, and you're like, well,
telling you her story, and then she's like, finally, kind of hear her come around a bit, like, oh, I can finally be with my husband, whatever, blah blah blah.
Yeah. But she goes, can I ask you one more final question? And he's like, Leo's like, sure. She goes, was I strong? And then Leo goes, I mean, I don't know how I survived. And she's like, sweet.
Thanks.
And then like, you see a poof, like ball of flame, and you're like, okay, bye. And so you're like, all right, sweet, we did it. And then who shows up? But the second coolest robot in this, which is Anubis, and you are basically like the sister robot. And you're like, Ada's like, hey, you're not supposed to meet him right now. Like, we're gonna get fucking killed.
That's the sequel, boss. You gotta go.
yeah, we gotta get the fuck out of here. You guys are like synchronizing together right now. This is not good. We gotta get the fuck out of here. And so you basically have to dodge him and just not fight him. He's like teleporting everywhere. He is like fully locked in. Yeah. And he catches you, and then what happens there is Elena calls you, and she's like, hey, I got these orbital rail guns. I'm going to blast aside into the thing that you're in, and then you just need to fly out, and I'm just going to shoot constant bullets down that way, and you just need to fly straight down. And if you move even a little bit, you're going to get caught. So just don't, like, stay right there in the middle. And so Leo's like, all right. So he does that. That is enough to keep Anubis at bay. He leaves. And then you hop out of your cockpit, and there is Selvice in a hospital bed floating around next to you. Thunderheart and Elena there. Everybody's all hunky-dory. And that's basically the only thing that happens there is there's, in the conversation towards the end there, Ada asks you, she's like, hey, can I ask you a quick question? Because when you land in the ship, you have about 3 minutes until, you can get out of the cockpit. And so he's like, hey, or she goes, can I ask you a question? And Leo's like, yes. And then she's like, one, I wanted to say, thank you. And she's like, is that how you express human gratitude? And he's like, yeah, kinda. And it's like, well, I mean, it is how you do it, but that's fine. And then she's basically like, hey, so, or he asks her what the mission is. Like, hey, do you mind me asking what you're going to Mars for? And she's like, yeah, no problem. We got to get into this military base, and then I have to detonate, like, myself to blow it off the face of Mars, basically. And it'll be like 15 gigaton bomb or something like that, which obviously would my guess is would probably like take out half of Mars along with it. Yeah. But so then Leo is like, what the fuck? Like, no, you should not do that. Like, you'll die. And she's like, again,
I'm an AI.
I am an AI.
It does not matter.
So, not a big deal. But I appreciate the concern. And he's like, no, you can't do this. And then that's when he sees Selvice. And then he's like, well, anyway, I got to get out of the cockpit. And Ada sort of just ejects him anyway because he's arguing with her. And she's like, anyways, and then just turns herself off and opens the door. Leo's got to get out. And then that's it. So we have basically been introduced to the characters here. So obviously, this game is, enough people bought this game,
sure,
quote unquote, that Konami had to greenlight a sequel and give it to Kojima because, well, hey, tons of people bought it, so people want it, right? Not to mention it was just because of that demo, but obviously it did garner quite a bit of following after it launched. But yeah, so what did you guys think about? It's just, hey, did that combat look cool? Did those robots look cool? And that's really it. That's what that game was.
So I'll go ahead and be honest. I'm cautiously optimistic. because mech games
Alex
are
is not a mech guy.
They're not. I'm not typically like mechs are not my jam, and it's like mechs also sometimes tend to go in the way of like a bullet hell game, especially in boss fights, where you're like dodging all the bullets and fighting. So I'm excited because
that doesn't happen in any of this though.
I mean, the first boss fight you had in that was
very
like
dodge
slow.
like
Yeah.
you dodge
Yeah.
like charged up laser attacks,
This
but
is
you have
not-
to do that in every video game.
This is not Returnal.
It's
Yeah.
no different than dodging a magic.
No, it's
fireball.
not. It's not Returnal or anything, but
Yeah.
like there was a little bit of that there. So I'm cautiously optimistic. We'll
see how it
see.
goes, yeah.
The only thing that bugged me watching this is a product at the time is every time you shot something, it was just like border destroyed,
Yep.
border, and there were a couple times where literally the game was like border destroyed,
Yeah.
border destroyed.
She
I was
does not
like,
stop chirping at
guys,
all.
guys. But yeah, I mean, I downloaded it last night. I'm excited to dive into it. It'll be my first experience with this series.
Yeah, same.
And really, I've only played one or two other mech games ever, and I've never really finished one. So I'm looking forward to make my way through this
Finishing your
and
first
see what
mech
we
game.
think. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Did you play Titanfall 2?
No.
No, I played Titanfall 1. But I only ever played multiplayer. Like, I never played the story
Well,
of those.
one is only multiplayer.
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh,
Two's
well,
the
there
one
you
that
go.
had the
So
campaign
no,
that
no,
everyone
I never
knew
played
about.
2.
All right, well, add to the list. So, okay.
What about you?
I liked it. It's very anime tropey, a little chirpy and annoying. But that being said, I mean, the action looks pretty fun. It's going to be tough because it's going to be going up against the last mech game I played, which was Armored Core 6, which is an incredible game. So
But you didn't finish that one.
I didn't finish it, but I played a fuck ton of it, and it's going to be compared to that when it comes to combat. But also, I'll give it its space because of the time and, different things. But yeah, the chirping is going to be something I'm not looking forward to. Curious about the different weapons, because I only got to see a couple of them. I know you unlock a bunch of them. I saw the guy try to use the javelin for the first time, and it was such the fucking limpest noodle kind of shot. He's like, boom! It's like, meow. And it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
guy, you're not being able to hit them at all, are you? Like, you got to be in their face to do so. Like, I was expecting javelin, throw it like across, like it goes. Maybe it loses this velocity a little bit, but like no, it was like the most like saddest thing I've seen when he hit that javelin out. I thought it was pretty cool how they did the overworld, where like you go into the menu, you hit the button that says lift off. You go into like see like the overworld of like the Halo that you're on, essentially that colony that's a Halo, and you get to pick which map section you're going to. So I thought that was pretty neat for its time, being able to kind of pop into an overworld, choose which level you want to go to as like you're floating above it, and then kind of dropping back down to do the rest of the battles. I thought that was a pretty good touch.
The localization of the dialogue had me rolling in certain parts.
Oh,
man.
for sure.
It
Yeah,
was
it's
so good.
of its time for sure. I did like the music. I thought it got a little samey for the most part, but
The music was good.
that soundtrack sounds exactly like the F-Zero for GameCube soundtrack. Like it sounds very, very close to it. But I think that was also around like the early 2000s, to where it was, hey, this is what video games sound like when it's supposed to be like sci-fi future. Like Wipeout has like the kind of same type of sound game music as well. But yeah, I like it. I'm down for that type of music for sure. Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to play it.
So, where are we? Speaking of, where are we playing to? What are we? What are we
so
doing?
we will be playing. So once there will be a boss battle in Zone of the Enders, the second runner, called Nephidus or Nephidus. It's
I don't like Nephitis. Let's call it Nephitis.
yeah.
Is Nephitis. That is who
Okay.
you'll be fighting. When you beat them, when that ends, that's where we'll stop.
Okay, so we're actually gonna fight them and beat them, and then we'll stop there.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, like I said, I'm optimistic. I'm excited. You usually pick pretty good games, so
I did have the highest rated game last year in the book club. So.
Did. See how
So
this anyway. goes this year.
Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. As always, Preston will link the video that
I
we
will.
watched for this on this. So if you want to catch up, and then if you want to play along with us, feel free to play along with us, just to hear your thoughts on everything. But join us next week as we will have our official part 1 of Zone of the Enders,
The second runner.
the second runner.
Yes.
Very deceiving name. Just call it number 2.
It's
fine.
it's not.
Is it also-
the number 2 is in it?
Is it also the second one, or Mars? Is that what they call it? The full title?
That's the edition that we're playing. So Mars is the re-release
Is the
that they
release
did
edition?
for
Okay.
Steam.
Just want to make
Yeah.
sure. That's what I saw. So.
And are we is Steam the best place to play this, like Prince of Persia, for those that want to play along, or us? Is the best experience the OG, or like are we fine with the Steam version?
Both the PS2 version that's on if you want to track down an OG copy, you totally can. The PS3 and Xbox 360 remakes of these games are also great. That's the version that we're getting here on Steam, is the 360 one. It's
Okay.
You'll be just fine.
Perfect. Don't want to have another
Yeah.
Prince of Persia situation on our hands.
Nope, it's not a Ubisoft game, so we're good.
Cool. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Check us out next week for part 1 official of this, and we're excited to dive into it. With that, Preston, you know what to do.
Hit it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Testing Room. To catch up on past episodes or check out the newest ones when they drop, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If watching is more your thing, check out youtube.com/thetestingroom or Twitch TV/testingroompod. To leave comments and ask questions, follow us on Instagram @testingroompod and email us at testingroompod@gmail.com. See you next time.